Hello and welcome. Hello, everyone. Sorry we're late. It's 100% my fault.
Yay, it's not my fault for once. Yay. I'm always late.
Oh my gosh. I looked at the clock and I was like, I'm going to grab a snack. I'm going to comb my hair. And it's like, what? It's 12:05. Hello, everyone. Welcome. We're here to talk true crime. We're getting ourselves prepped for the Lori Vallow Daybell trial coming up on April 3rd if there are not further delays. And if her attorney has his way, yeah, there would be delays. Evidently, he mentioned, and I watched this too, I listened carefully. The last hearing, he expressed, that it was really Lori Vallow who is pushing for a speedy trial, not him. He would take the time. And then of course, Chad Daybell, they were tried together. So Chad Daybell's attorney was arguing he needs more time. And if they're tried together and she wants a speedy trial, then he gets a speedy trial. But his attorney is like saying he needs more time, which is probably legitimate. But if you get to know his attorney, which you will in the future, if you're watching the trial, you can be the judge of that. Is he just whining, or does he have a legitimate argument? Obviously, the judge felt like he had a legitimate argument, and so the trials are separated. Severed, as it's said in legal terminology. But before we get to that, we're going to discuss another true crime. True crimer that is Aaron Rodgers and the crimes that he's perpetrating on Twitter, because I know you want to get that off your chest. So go ahead. I don't know if you know this about me, Katie, and for those of you who are listening, we met through Packers Twitter. We're football fans, particularly Packers fans. And I have this long-standing policy that I won't mention his name on Twitter, or it's just like, because I just don't want to. And so I don't get into all of the drama, but it doesn't mean that doesn't affect me somewhat. So tell us how you're feeling, Katie, about this true crime.
He just went on Pat McAfee's show today, and I typically like it. I mean, he's kind of kooky, but like over the top hipster, or like hippie, but like whatever. And I can typically deal with him, but today I was just annoyed beyond all annoyed, because it's not my fault. It's the Packers. I went into my darkness retreat and they changed their mind. But I'm not the victim. I'm never the victim. And I'm like, my husband sent me a text and I'm so over it. And he's like, yeah, he's such a diva. And I'm like, I think narcissist is the word you're looking for. Yeah. Because my gosh. So it was crazy.
So he's just team under the bus.
Oh, absolutely. Not the fans, though, the team. Like how they treat all the outgoing players like garbage, and how he's been trying to fix that the last couple of years. And it's all their fault because they drafted Jordan Love, so he knew his time was coming, and blah, 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 blah.
Well, bottom line, is he still a Packer or is he a Jet?
Well, he's currently still under contract, but he said, and then
that's all I care about.
Then he comes on and he goes, by the way, this isn't decision day. Like, that was the first thing out of his mouth. And we're like, oh my God. But then he said, my intention is to continue to play football and to play for the New York Jets. So he wants a trade to the Jets.
Okay.
So now we just got to wait for the trade deal to get done. Okay. But the Jets aren't going to let it fall through. So I'm going to say it. He's a Jet.
Well, he's not yet, though. And that's the problem.
No. He will be, though,
because he can say and do anything he wants. But okay.
Yes.
Okay, so
he will not come back to play for the Packers.
It doesn't sound like it after that statement.
No.
Well, do you want to know what my thoughts have been like for the last 3 years on this?
Yeah, you're over it.
No, I mean, a few years ago, I just watched his personality, right? Just from that standpoint, not how he plays and all that. Well, somewhat how he plays too, of course. That's the most important thing. But in terms of his personality, I have always said, especially when he started playing these off-season games a few years ago, where he said, "I'm not going to be like Brett Favre," and it's like, okay,
Ugh.
you're worse. You're
Yeah.
worse. Okay, so here's the thing. I've always said, and I am always said it off screen, privately, to only a few people, and probably two people, and that is, I didn't ever think that he had the guts, confidence, and courage that it would take to play for another team, because his act will follow him. And
Yep.
his excuses and blaming the team for all of his problems, but really not, because I'm just a professional passive aggressive.
I'm not a victim.
Right. So I really think the pressure is on now, because he would really have to prove himself.
Yeah.
And I hope he does. Let me just say that. I hope he does.
Yeah.
Now, the second thing is that I've said off camera, I never said it before, and oh my gosh, and there's a reason I don't, especially on Twitter.
Yeah, they're coming for you.
Yeah, is that if and when he does leave, especially if it's before he wants to stop playing, which he obviously doesn't want to stop playing, he's going to do everything he can to take the team down, to burn the team down.
Mm-hmm.
He will not go without throwing arrows, burning the place down. He will try. Whether he 100%. Does it or not, the Green Bay Packers are much larger than Aaron Rodgers will ever be.
Exactly. Because they're the Packers. They're not the Green Bay Rodgers.
Yeah. And a lot of people, and I don't understand that, how people have become so, in several players, not just Rodgers, but fans, become personally attached to these players. And it's like, it's great. There's fandom, and then there's like, you need to get a life and find real friends, because these people are not part of it.
I know.
Yeah. I don't have that attachment to anyone. No. Any content creator, anybody. And so I feel like I can say those things, but I'm not saying those things to be vindictive or to say,
no.
Because people are like, oh, you just hate Rodgers. It's like, I don't hate anyone. Have you ever heard me speak about what, so yeah.
Yeah. I'm just ready to move on at this point. The drama the last few years, I'm just so over it. Just
right. Yeah.
Ugh,
I'm not surprised. I'm sad. I'm not surprised.
Yeah, I'm sad. Like, it's bittersweet. I'm sad. Like, he is a great player, and he's done great things for the Green Bay Packers. But so I'm sad about that. But I'm just ready to move on.
Yeah. Well, there are a lot of great players out there, and they don't have that kind of, And then the whole thing about like all this, like the mushrooms, the retreats, the going to Peru, the darkness retreat, the rehashing 90s new age books, like that. If you've been around in the 90s, this is his book club. This idea that he has something to offer in terms of mental health or spirituality that hasn't already been done, that is annoying beyond belief to somebody who really was around in the 90s and the 80s. And come on. I feel like he wants to be a guru more than he wants to be a player. And he should. Like, if that's what he wants to do, go do it.
Yeah, I know.
But that would also take courage. And so what I'm saying is, I really don't think from a personal standpoint that he has a lot of courage. And you know what takes a lot of courage? It takes a lot of courage to believe what he claims to believe and not say anything about it, because you're dignified and you're above that kind of petty.
You're mature.
Right. So I will back up my thoughts. And being an MVP doesn't make you a good team player. And so my problem with him, if there is a problem with him, I will admit it, that I don't think he's a good team player. And as a quarterback, that's really not a good quality. You're supposed to be the leader. And if you can't be a team player, you can't be a leader.
Yeah.
Effectively.
And yeah. And he just refuses to accept blame for anything.
Yes.
Like, it's always because the Packers couldn't put good enough players around him or whatever it may be. But yet his play sucked in the last 3 playoff games. Like, he's been awful. Courage.
Well, right. And that comes down to your personal fortitude, because you can argue that Tom Brady and that Rodgers is more talented than Tom Brady. But why is Tom Brady winning? Because he knows how to win. That takes courage.
Yeah.
That takes courage. It takes.
Because he plays with the team, and he plays in the offense, and he plays the plays that are given to him, and the open players that are available to him.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This isn't a football podcast.
Being better and smarter than everybody else. And I talk about this because I am going to segue into our true crime broadcast, because there's a lot of interesting things that I've learned from true crime and about reading people and watching these police interrogation videos with you.
Yeah.
And in trial testimonies and things like that. And I'm starting to notice patterns. I'm not saying he's a criminal, but
no.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I agree. I completely agree.
One of the things that I'm really blown away with is, now that we're watching these together, and I didn't pick up on it earlier, and I've done a fair amount, of probably more than average amount of, reading and listening about the Lori Daybell trial and that whole situation. And I am blown away how much commonality there is between the Adelson family and the Cox family.
Right?
So, yeah. So I brought a little of it last week. And so more to come on that. And so what we're talking about here is, skills that we could develop reading people, paying more attention to the people that were around that might be sketchy or dangerous.
Red flag.
Right. That we might want to be careful around. Yeah.
Yes.
So that's my transition over.
I think it's perfect. Hey, do you know what happened in the Daybell trial this morning?
The hearing?
I didn't get to see what they were.
I didn't look.
I saw a motion to compel was one of them, because defense is saying they're not getting all the evidence. But I don't know what the other 2 were.
Yeah. So the short answer is no. And so I'm not going to comment on anything that I haven't. Yeah. So, so I will look that up while we're watching this video. And the last situation was the severing, and then there was one other thing, and just off the top of my head, I can't remember right now, but I was paying attention to what you had to say about Roger. Oh, exactly.
And then I did listen to a podcast about the Daybell, which I sent you.
I wanted to ask you if you've done some more research. Yeah, since.
So far I've just listened to that, but I do want to get deeper. I tried to listen to Joseph's sister's YouTube.
Yeah.
It's not cohesive enough for me, and I get so lost into what she's saying. But that's because she's more doing like lives, So it's harder for me.
That's a real time investment with her, and yes, and she does have a particular way of doing it, so it's not for everyone.
Yeah. No. So I'm gonna try and find another one to look into. But man, after prior to doing our thing last week with Tylee, I just thought Lori went off the deep end and killed her daughter, right? Okay. And then we did that interview with Tylee, and the way that she, I don't know how to say it, stuck up for her mom, but that's not the right, she had her mom's back the whole time in that interview. She is her mother's daughter. That's my mom. I don't care what's going on. I'm going to stand up for my mom. I'm going to make sure my mom doesn't get in trouble, blah, blah, blah. And just a couple weeks later, she was brutally murdered. I just what the heck happened in those 2 weeks that Lori
It wasn't 2 weeks. Okay, so think about it this way. I would suggest it wasn't 2 weeks.
Okay.
Now, why would maybe she knew she had to stick up for her mother because what would happen to her?
True.
This is somebody who's a dependent, right, on her mother.
Yeah.
So don't you think that it might just been, and which is extraordinarily sad to say this, right? But her own survival was dependent on whether she stuck up for her mom or not. So do you think maybe she knew what her mom was capable of?
I mean, probably, yes.
She saw what happened to her father.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And then her stepfather.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it just
right.
Now there was another heartbreaking.
There was another instance, and it's been recorded because I've heard several people mention it. There was a time when Tylee had to stand up to Lori and say, "Not me, I'm not a zombie," because Lori started to say she was a zombie. And she knew, because Tylee knew what would happen to zombies. Right?
That's so heartbreaking. It's
exactly.
just.
So if you think about it that way, it's really sad, but it kind of makes sense because that was the life she knew. And she knew her father was dead. She knew Charles was dead now. She witnessed it. And she was hearing what Lori was saying about, oh, he's a dark spirit and that kind of thing. And then she found out that her mother thought she was a dark spirit. So she knew. So she knew she thought that if she could ingratiate herself with her mother, she would be safe, which in most cases a child would be.
And it just makes me so mad at the Arizona Police Department and how they didn't do anything for those children. Nothing. Right. And it's just heartbreaking. I don't know. Do you think it was Alex who killed Tylee, right?
I don't think we know exactly how the whole thing went down, but the thought is that it was obviously a conspiracy, but that he was involved.
Okay, but I don't even want to say it.
He was known to do her bidding.
Yeah, but she was dismembered and burned. Is that correct, Tylee?
Yeah.
Okay.
But they don't know her. More than likely, that would have been Chad who did that part and buried. Yeah. So there was a text chain between Chad and his wife the day that the authorities believe that Tylee was destroyed.
Yeah, and he said that they were burning like a burn pit or whatever he texted her to not get suspicion.
Yeah, which is just horrible.
But it was Alex whose phone was there at that property for multiple hours because that's how they knew to search there.
I think the thought is that Alex might have killed the 2 children and then brought them over there for burial.
Okay. Do they know the cause of death for either child?
I'm not sure. That's going to come. There's a lot of things that are going to come in during the trial, but I have a hard time even talking about this part of it. So kind of my stomach is starting to turn. It's very,
it was
very upsetting. Okay, quick comments. Hello and welcome. Lady Cymbalee. She says, Tylee saw this breakdown of her mom and Lori was completely unreliable and unhinged parent, then dealing with her own coming of age. It's so heartbreaking. No support, but an instigator for a mom. It's horrible.
It's just that poor baby didn't deserve. I mean, nobody deserves it, but
I think Lori is buying time for that the case loses public interest. She thinks she waits long enough, people will let her off the hook. Well, she has wanted a speedy trial, so I'll look at that real quick when we should. So why would Lori not want more discovery and waive that speedy trial? Right. And especially when her lawyers are telling her, advising her. I find that's an interesting question, Brandy. And I was thinking about that too. What do you think, Brandy? And what do you think, Lady? And what do you think, Katie, on that question specifically? Why, especially think about this. If she goes first, then Chad's going to have, and his attorney are going to have the advantage of all of that trial information that comes out during that trial.
Yeah.
To possibly get him, the evidence is pretty overwhelming, but
yeah. Well, I mean, it's kind of like how Alec Murdaugh wanted that speedy trial because they couldn't get the rest of their investigation. I mean, they shouldn't have arrested him without the investigation being done. But I kind of wonder if that's maybe Lori's.
I don't think Lori, no, Alec Murdaugh is an attorney, a very good attorney, right?
True. Yeah.
Lori probably has different, I'm just saying, I don't think that her reasoning, because she has attorneys advising her otherwise. I don't think there was any suggestion that Murdaugh's attorneys were advising him not to do a speedy trial. So, especially with an intensive trial like this, with the amount of evidence, the evidence and the witness list is just massive, and it goes across state lines and just all kinds of stuff. So I don't see. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think it more has something to do with that she thinks she's going to get off and she just wants to go out of there. That would, I think it's something really basic like that.
That makes sense.
And so Brandy says, the only reason I see is she does not want her culpability to be looked at in depth. Right. And it's not technically speeding. I mean, she was arrested in, what was it, 2020? So it's been a few years, but then, she had to go to the hospital and all those things in between. So yeah, so there's that. All right. So let's just review, Katie, since it's still kind of a little bit. Oh, and Lady says, I think her strategy is to blame Alex Cox, her brother. I went to Murdaugh right away. I was like, what? She could easily say, I was getting married to Chad and we planned a honeymoon. And I asked my brother to do childcare during this time. Then Alex hit their location. Right. All right. And so what was the update, Debbie? What was the update? Tell us. And hello. Okay. Yeah, that's wonderful. So it's going to be October. So they've got a date. That's fantastic. Okay.
It just took me 5 minutes to figure out what that meant.
I know.
Charlie Adelson's case, right? Is that what you're talking about?
She's talking about CA, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Charlie Adelson date.
I read that as California and I was real confused.
All right. So,
I have one other comment before we start the interviews. I saw a snippet of Lori's interview that we're going to be doing, just the tiniest snippet.
Okay.
It's the exact same interviewer as the one who did Tylee. And she ends it the exact same way of, well, is there anything else that I haven't asked about? And I'm like, girl, you need to up your interview game because it's not great.
Right. So the two interviews, no, that's good. The two interviews that we're looking at, last week we looked at Tylee, and today we're going to spend a bit of time looking at least the first part of Lori's. Those were the same day in the same police station, and they were basically back to back. So Tylee had to wait for them to finish Lori to come to her.
Yep.
So we saw her waiting, and also and there was a time, and I sped through the waiting part because there was so much time there when I could sit there and watch her fidget around for 40 minutes.
Yeah.
Evidently somebody noticed that at one point and I'll have to look for this, she did start crying about Charles, most likely about what her situation was. So by the time they got there, she kind of thought it all through and was prepared, which we could tell she was somewhat prepared for it.
Yep.
So I just threw together, just by way of review here. Oh, a couple of my lines are a little bit off, just because I know this is not super familiar to you. We talked about
Mhm.
some of the characters last week. And so this is the kind of the tree that I put together. And it's so small. Let me see if I can see it better here. Okay. And I'm going to just hide your comments for a sec, everyone. All right. So Janice Cox is Lori's mother. And sorry about those lines up there. My computer froze when I was finishing that up. Lori had her oldest sister who is dead. She died at 31 years old. Alex Cox was the only one there. He used her credit cards that day fraudulently and racked up a bunch of credit card bills. The family was in Hawaii, as they're known to do at times like this. And they, by most accounts, did not really even make an effort to be with her while she was dying.
Yeah.
Cause of death, the family always claims that they have a blood clotting propensity in their family. So I can't remember. So I've heard all kinds of things, from diabetic shock to all kinds of things. But she is the mother of Melanie, Lori's niece. I couldn't
Okay.
remember whose mother it was, so I got that clarified.
Okay.
Melanie's husband at the time, Alex, actually attempted to murder him twice. The first time he attacked him with a taser, and he actually went to jail for this. And then he came back and tried to shoot him and missed his head by less than an inch or less than 2 inches. It was very
And he
close.
did it in like a red Jeep, and they have video of him like removing seats. So
He did it in I believe it was Charles's vehicle.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then they have video of a storage unit of Chad and Lori removing the back seat from that Jeep.
Yep,
And like,
yep,
yeah. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep,
Okay.
that was later. So then there's Adam, and then put his picture up. And then there's Alex Cox, who is now dead, who by all accounts was involved in all of these. He was present for and questionable about all of these, including his older sister, the oldest sister back in the day. So he married Zulema for like 2 weeks. Zulema,
yeah, that's a whole crazy nonsense too.
Yes, it's crazy. Who claims that he attempted to kill her, and now he's dead. And a lot of people wonder if she helped Lori kill him. Okay.
I wonder that. Yes.
And then we have Lori, who's in the middle, and there's her mugshot. Lori married 5 different men. So you can see first her high school sweetheart, Nelson Yanes. I'm not going to use his picture because he doesn't deserve it. And then William Lagiola, I believe. Lagiola, I can't see very well because it's small for me, who is theoretically, I'm going to say, the father of Colby. And then she married Joseph Ryan, who was Tylee's father, who ended up dead.
Yep.
She married, actually, it might have been Joseph that he tased. I can't remember. I have to look at that. Sorry, I might have got that wrong. But Joseph was very scared of Alex Cox. Then Charles Vallow, who's also dead, and the father of Charles was J.J. And then she married Chad Daybell, and his wife is dead.
Yep.
They have 5 children together. Melanie Boudreau and Brandon have 4 children together. And then there's the neighbor. I kept saying last week, there's somebody else.
Yeah.
It's the neighbor that possibly, very likely in my opinion, but also died supposedly of blood clots. But this neighbor, Eldon, was known for being the nosy neighbor, and he'd walk up and down the road and snoop around what everybody was doing. And he
Whose
died.
neighbor?
Chad Daybell's.
So like the property that the kids were found on.
Exactly. So the likelihood he was found in the ditch there. So the likelihood that, he was given something to drink or eat. Yeah.
And when did he die? after the kids?
Right. Yeah. Right after they were
Okay.
buried. Right. So,
Okay.
right.
Okay.
So the dates are this. So starting with Stacy Cox, that was 1998. And then 20 years later, all this other stuff comes up. So there might
Yeah.
be more in between. So Joseph Ryan was dead on April 3rd, 2018. Brandon Boudreaux, attempted murder on October 2nd, 2018. Charles Vallow was killed by Alex Cox. There's no question about that. He admitted
Yep.
it
Yep.
on July 11th, 2019.
Yep.
Tylee Ryan, they think she died on the 9th of September, 2019.
Yep.
They think J.J. died a couple weeks later on September 23rd, 2019. Eldon was found dead in the ditch on September 29th, 2019. So only 6 days later after
Okay.
JJ. And then only a couple days before Tammy Daybell was dead.
Yep.
And then we have Zulema, who married Alex Cox,
Mm-hmm.
who claims on December 1st, 2019, that same year that he attempted to kill her. And then Alex Cox is dead that very month, December of 2019.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
So not obviously, we don't know that these deaths are all related to Lori Daybell, who we're talking about today, but it's sure fishy. And there's a lot of dead bodies with a lot of the same people around all the time. So
Yeah.
I'm just, it's all kind of alleged. The only crimes that they've been indicted for is Charles and Lori Chad and Lori on Tylee and J.J. And those are the trials that are coming first. And then Chad on Tammy, his wife, and then Lori on Charles, her husband.
Yes. Okay.
Most of which were 2019. They haven't looked into Alex, Zulema, or Eldon, the neighbor. And then Brandon Boudreaux did get a civil lawsuit, but not a criminal.
Yep.
And then Joseph Ryan, he was found dead. He had been in his apartment alone for at least over a week. And then he was cremated. So it would be hard to prove what happened to him. So
who chose to have him cremated?
I don't remember.
Okay.
And then also, so Lori is one of 5 siblings. I believe there was a baby that died at one point, like 2 months or something. And then her oldest sister is dead. Alex is now dead. She's in prison. She has the youngest sister. Her name is Summer, who was quoted as saying, "I'll kill him myself," regarding Charles Vallow. And a lot of real fishy stuff regarding this whole family and their potential complicity, I guess you would say. Yeah. So, and I made a comment last week, and it's like the worst thing you can do is tell somebody they're super special, right? When they're just like everybody else. I think she was, fed that she's like some kind of special person her whole life. So let me get back over to the comments before we start looking at the video. So, okay. Brandy says a big strategy for a prosecutor is to overwhelm the defense with witness videos and busy work as well. That is absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. Mm-hmm. All right. I don't think they would have to have a hard time doing that, especially in this case with the amount of evidence that they have.
Yeah.
Brandy says, also, if I were the defense team, I am doing as many court appearances as I can to mitigate a speedy trial. Right. And Brandy says, how each family member holds up to questioning and how their stories intersect will be very interesting. Right. And no doubt they've practiced and they're practicing.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Oh, I'm glad you like the graphic. Sorry, I didn't. I had the funny lines. My computer froze, and I'll fix it up, and I'll put it in the community pages so you can have it.
Oh, that graphic is great.
Yeah, thank you.
And then there is also something weird with her oldest son, correct? Like he just got arrested for sexual.
So Colby is her oldest son by her second marriage, supposedly, and it's unclear how much he knew. And kind of like Tylee,
Sure.
was just trying to survive. But yeah, he later on, in the more recently, I should say, I don't know the date.
Yeah.
He did get, I think his marriage is kind of over. He got it charged with spousal abuse or something along those lines.
Okay.
Kind of a issue. And Lady Alex Cox tastes Joseph. Yes, thank you. I after I said it, I was like, wait a minute. It was Joseph. And so Joseph had really deteriorated. He didn't know, like Lori just is not nice to her husbands. Like she kind of chews him up and spits him out. And he had a fair amount of money as well. So he really declined, and they tried to blame it on drug abuse or something along those lines, but his death. But he was by all accounts in fear of Alex Cox. And who wouldn't be, right? With being tased. Downtown Wonder, hello. A life like in life, Lori is getting her way in courtroom. No cameras and being tried separately, correct? The funny thing is, Downtown, I feel like she would want cameras. I really do. So that we can all be witness to when she just evaporates, because she can do that. She has the ability to travel without airplanes from state to state.
Jesus.
And I mean, we're all glued to see that happen, right? So come on, Lori. Yeah, I don't know who it was, if it was the attorneys, if I can't remember. I did, believe it or not, I've watched every single proceeding, but I don't remember a lot of the details. So I find that a little contradictory to her wanting to have all the attention. But your point is well taken.
Yeah, I did see in today's trial that the defense had to stop part of their motion because somebody in the courtroom had a cell phone and he was worried that they were video recording him.
Yes. It was
so like they had to go check that.
Yeah, it had to do with the media, but there's a lot of accusations by Chad Daybell's attorney too. I think it was Chad Daybell's attorney who wanted it taken out more than anybody. Lady asks, Chad died from a blood clot, ? Or excuse me, Alex. It says Alex. Why did I say Chad? Or overdose ? I think about a month after Tammy's body. Yeah, so Alex, it was supposedly a blood clot that runs in the family, and heart disease is what the official. Yes, and that was in December of 2019, and I believe it was the day of her body being exhumed. So I think you're right on that. And Brandy says, I need to brush on the Menendez trial for this one. Interesting. The brothers. Huh. Interesting.
What's that mean? Who's Menendez?
2 brothers out here in San Diego that murdered their parents.
Oh.
Because of abuse.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I shouldn't say because of, but the motive was to stop the father from abusing the one boy.
Yeah. They
were young adults at the time. I'd love to hear what you think, Brandy, the commonality between the Menendez family and the Cox family. And also, Brandy, are you familiar with the Adelsons and the Professor Markel's murder? Because I'm finding a lot of commonality between those families, the Adelson and the Cox family dynamics. Okay, Lady says, so sad that JJ's last weeks of his life were without his sister around. That's right.
Yeah, heartbreaking.
Yeah. and his
Just heartbreaking.
comfort dog and a lot of things, his medication. There are people who believe he was being poisoned during that time. I mean, in Tylee, I mean, the abject fear she had to have been living in the mind games. I mean, this is not just a murder. This is a progressive abuse. And I do believe Lori has been charged with things like child endangerment and those types of things, which is good. She should be. And Lady says, I never knew that about Summer saying that. What a dangerous, entitled family. Yes, it's pretty scary. And theoretically, they believed all that. And now the mother is saying, well, Charles was the best thing she ever had. But I put the pictures up of people who I believe helped this happen, could have prevented this from happening.
Yeah.
And then, I believe that she dropped the charges on Colby. That's regarding your question about his. But he was charged. So, and well, we have videos about it here in my playlist, in the interrotalk playlist. If you'd like to check it out, the first video gives the summary. So it's all the way down. We've been doing this for a while. It's a very interesting case, Brandy, where a family was allegedly involved with murdering a son-in-law. So very similar family dynamics.
Starts at the top.
Yeah, I've noticed a lot of things, like Alex Cox traveling to Colombia for sex, and Charlie Adelson did that. The inappropriate relationship between a brother and a sister, what a lot of people commented on, both cases, and more. Okay. So there we have it. I will update this a little bit, get those funny lines off the top. And but and you got to believe there's more. Like, there was 20 years of nothing happening.
Yeah.
Right.
So, okay. Sorry, I just remembered that the day of Charles' murder, he had been out of town. He called Adam. They realized that Lori was going off the deep end and they were going to do an intervention. And Adam was supposed to go with. What happened with that? He just chose not to show up that day?
Well, that's the thing. Was Adam actually a mole for the family and being nice to Charlie? To Charles.
Okay.
We don't know.
Okay.
But we'll find out more in the trial. You know, the idea is that we find out more in the trial. We don't know. That's why we want to watch the trials, because there's so much that we don't know. That the evidence is going to be bonkers, and the information that that's out there already is massive. So can you imagine what's going to happen in the trial?
No.
I mean,
another 6-week trial happening?
I believe when it was the two of them together, they were saying it could be as long as 10 weeks.
Oh, God.
There's a lot of evidence. I mean, there's two murders, possibly 4, connected. And they're going to bring that up if they're allowed to. So it goes across state lines. It was clearly a conspiracy. They've got people, who are going to talk about how this was planned. So it's a lot.
Is Melanie Boudreaux still standing behind the Vallows, or is she like, does she realize? Yes.
Not the Vallows. The Vallows are Kay and Larry. Kay is Charles Vallow's sister. So the Daybells,
the Daybells,
the Coxes. Yeah. So she has been, and she bought into all of this crazy zombie, all these crazy beliefs. How people can talk about these things with a straight face is just beyond me.
I know, but then Ian, her new husband, wore a wire to like trap Lori and get her. So I don't think Ian believes them. So that, anyway, it's so messy.
Well, Ian, so when basically the way that it's been portrayed and again, this is all alleged. I don't know. I'm just mercilessly repeating what I'm told, what I've read. But pretty reliable. I mean, I'm only using East Idaho News, which is a legitimate reporter, Nate Eaton, and those folks over there, as well as Annie Cushing, who is Joseph's Ryan's sister. And a couple, I mean, I'm pretty much, and she's reading straight from the evidence that's going to be shown. So she's reading straight from those. So it's not like, oh, it's my personal opinion or whatever. It's actual people saying this actually was said or this happened. So Brandon Boudreaux and Melanie look to be happy. They had 4 children together, and suddenly she wants a divorce. And the thought is that Lori wanted her to get a divorce so that for money, because Brandon had a decent amount of money, probably life insurance too. And the Cox family, guess what their business is? What their family business is? Insurance. So suddenly Brandon is confronted by Melanie, thinking that they were in a happy marriage, and she's accusing him of being gay and wants a divorce immediately. And he had this then he had this attempt on his life right after their property closed, because he was like, well, I guess we're getting a divorce. And she wanted the money for the house, the very nice house they had, and insurance and that kind of thing. And Alex missed. Evidently, Alex Cox isn't a really good shot. And so I question whether there were really only 2 shots with Charles Vallow in his shooting. But because I looked at the tape, the body cam footage, and one of the police officers said, oh, he just shot him up. Like, you don't say that when there's only 2.
No.
Yeah.
Right.
But that's just me speculating on that. So that's the situation with Brandon and Melanie. And to this day, it doesn't appear that she's deviated a whole lot and given up. I mean, maybe just enough to keep herself out of it. She also was arrested later for fraud. She's impersonating him. She stole his computer, all kinds of stuff.
Okay. Anyway.
So, go ahead.
No, I'm good.
Oh, I thought you were saying, okay. Brandy says discovery alone will take at least 2 weeks. Right. It's massive. It's going to be a massive trial, much bigger than the Murdaugh trial. And the Murdaugh trial could have easily been done in 3 weeks. Like that whole financial. Yeah, it's not going to be that kind. It's going to be really things totally related to the actual murders, not all this other stuff that we had to sit through. Downtown, I want to know what life insurance company this family used. Yeah, those company names are going to be, in fact, those insurance representatives will probably be testifying. And those, you can find all of those little details if you want on Annie's website or on Annie's YouTube page, but it's a lot to sift through. The cool thing about Annie too is she shares all the documents.
Oh,
she's a data analyst for real in her life and her career, and she's very data driven. And she takes because usually when we see as the public, when we see papers relating to a court proceeding, we get a picture of that paper, right? We don't get the document where we can search the words and it's just a photo. So she actually transforms from picture to word.
Oh. And
she makes sure everything is correct. She goes through every single thing, and then she does word searches to find, which is what you do. That's what I do. If I ever get a hold of anything that's actually got words and not a picture, I'll do word searches to see what I want to know about it. And then she goes through all of that in great detail, like minute detail, but then she shares those documents with her followers.
Sure.
And Debbie is talking to Brandy. Brandy, people don't like to talk about it or read comments on it, but it is what it is. She's talking. I'm thinking. she's saying, Brandy, it's really demonic activity. I think that's a fair statement. Lady, didn't Melanie also put all the kids' toys at the side of the road? Right. She helped before they were dead. She got rid of his toys, all of it. It's just, I have such a hard time with this.
Yeah.
Sees very Wendy-like. Yes, also the divorce, like everything's fine and suddenly it's Pearl Harbor with the way that they treated their husbands when they decided they were done with the marriages, done with them. And took all the boys' things from the marriage home. Exactly. Just like Wendy. Allegedly.
Yeah.
Hopefully there's documentation on that. So, all right. So let's take a quick look. We have a little bit of time left. If you're ready, are we ready? And then I will try to, let me see. So as you see, it's a very similar room to the one we saw Tylee in. And this is, again, by way of reminder, this is this is the same, and believe this is the same investigator. You can't really see her face on Tylee's. This would have been done while Tylee was in the opposite room. And you see Tylee's chair was on the other side of the room. So, it's not the same room, but a very similar room. So this is the day that Charles Vallow was killed by Alex Cox. He hadn't been charged with murder until later when all this other stuff happened. And it's important because had there been more intervention here, perhaps the children would still be alive. That's the problem with this whole thing. So here we go. Are we ready? Can you hear it okay? Everybody here? Okay. So you would think that Charles and Lori had been married, 16 years at this point? Only recently that she decided that she wanted to leave. Of course, we know why. But this is her. Check out how she behaved the day that her actual husband.
Your hair do work or don't? Like they don't care. Well, I think with high school, it's like they're just pumping. But when she was in elementary and junior high, all the teachers worked with her. They were nice about it. But by high school, there's so many kids that just don't care. And I was like, just take it. You're so smart. Let's just take it. See if you pass it. She passed it.
And got a really good score.
Yeah, she passed it with like college ready in every category the first time.
Well, and now she can.
So in here, she's blabbing about Tylee and how smart she is. And she's talking about how she took the GED. And so now she's college ready. Now, this is important because she's already planned ahead. Because if you recall, Lori told people who were looking for Tylee when she was missing. She told them
that she was at college.
BYU. Now, if you know anything about BYU, chances are a GED is not going to get you into college.
No.
You generally, so there's that. But look how broken up she looks.
She's so heartbroken.
Yeah, she's just chit-chatting, charming. This
look at the body language though, all closed off. Like legs crossed, arms crossed, just like.
Yeah, I mean, there's got to be some trepidation. Some trepidation there because she was there and he was killed, so she doesn't know what they know. And very matter of fact, as Debbie said. All right, so I'm going to go ahead. She just tosses her purse on the floor. She seems pretty confident to me.
I do what she wants. So
Exactly.
she's better off that way. Okay. I know Lori's your first name, right? Lauri.
Lori.
Okay. And then what's your last name?
Vallow. Vallow.
And your date of birth?
She's turning 50.
And your phone number? And you live at the house, right? Okay. Okay, I know this sounds silly, but it's probably the easiest way to start, is just to tell me what happened. And then, so you can start what makes the most sense to you, and we'll just work our way through, and I'm gonna ask you a bunch of questions just to kind of clarify.
Sure.
So I know you talked to the initial patrol officer,
And he just got information. He didn't say anything.
so yeah, if you can just kind of tell me kind of what happened. It sounds like some of this may have started last night or something along those lines.
Right.
So start where you think it makes the most sense.
Okay, so,
I told you, it's a crazy question.
Well, so we moved into this house 3 weeks ago because he offered to get me a house here where all my family is. So we
Okay.
were in Houston. And so he's like, we had decided to separate or whatever. So he's like, well, I'll pay for a house for you and for JJ and whatever, because he's all about JJ. He's never about Tylee, but he's all about JJ.
Mhm.
Because we adopted him together. He's
Okay.
his great nephew. We adopted him as a
Okay.
baby.
So she says he's all about JJ and never about Tylee.
Yeah. Throw him under the bus.
Well, which may or not, by many accounts, he was very good to Tylee. So that's interesting.
Okay.
That she felt like she had to add that in. Why is that even valid right now? So that shows her frame of mind again, just like the GED. She's going to go to college. Just framing the
That's it.
story.
And so we adopted him as a baby, and so we've been raising him together. And he travels all the time for business, so he's used to just going back and forth. So he's always gone like Monday through Friday. So he came when we first moved in and brought me stuff from Houston, like a U-Haul, and then he hasn't been back. But it's all these threats on my phone all the time, you know, like whatever, all these things. And then
Did she just
He
say
told
all
me
these
what
kind of
threats?
She just said all these threats. Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
Now, again, there are texts, voluminous amounts of texts that will show exactly what was being said and what these threats might or might not be. But she did course correct that way. She said these threats, and then she said all these things, right? So she's just framing these things the way she wants to right now. But she did course correct there.
it's just you'd have to read them to see, but he's always mad at me, right?
Okay.
And he doesn't want a divorce, but I don't like him and don't want to deal with him, so that's just how it is. Like, so we married for 14 years, we dealt with it for 14 years, of him being horrible to her. Like, he gets in huge fights with her, a lot of things. But anyway, so he said, I'm coming Wednesday night, all of a sudden. I want to see JJ. And I told him, I said, I will never keep JJ from you. You can come see whenever you want to, come take him to school, whatever. Like, I'm not going to do that.
So when you initially moved, he had said he was gonna buy you a house, so you moved here with your
Yeah, he was going to
business.
rent us a house.
And so you
Because
moved,
all my family lives here. So
Right.
we lived here for a long time.
okay,
And then he moved us to Houston.
okay,
And we were there with my son. He was out of school. He didn't have any of his, like, services, his DDD, his
Yeah.
anything. He, like, ripped him out of school and said, we're moving.
okay.
And I didn't go with him at first. And he took him. And I let him take him.
Mhm.
And I didn't file anything or whatever. And then he filed something against me and said, I'm only going to get supervised visits because I'm crazy and blah, blah, blah. You know, the story. And so I just didn't.
Yeah, we know the story.
Oh, because you are crazy. Anyway.
Just had to pause there for a little chuckle.
Yeah, that was
Okay.
funny. That was funny.
help him for like 30 days and let him take care of him and let him see what I've been doing for the
Yeah.
past 7 years, because men need to do that. You don't have 5 kids.
Yeah.
I have grown kids. I have grandkids.
Yeah.
Like, okay, you're going to threaten me that you're not going to let me see my child without supervised visitation?
Yeah.
Okay, do it for 30 days and see how long it lasts. You're
Right.
begging me to come pick him up.
Yeah.
Which he did. It's just like, come back and whatever. So I moved in with them to Houston
Okay.
for the family, you know, and Tylee went with me. We drove to Houston from here and left all our family and all his support, all my
Yeah.
son's support, like his cousins, everything. And we were there, and I enrolled him in school there. I tried to start all his services, and it takes forever.
Yeah.
You know, it takes so long to get that done.
There's no easy transfer in
There's
anything.
no easy transfer.
You start from the
State to
beginning.
state, it's a totally new thing.
Yeah.
And he didn't do any of it in
Mhm.
those 30 days. So he just should have gone without services, without even applying. And I'm like, do you even realize? Because he didn't ever do it in the first place. I did it. Long story. I'll keep it short. He hasn't been here in a couple weeks since we moved in.
Okay.
He came. He was very nasty when he was there, but he travels for business. So he went back to the Houston house,
Okay.
and he's like, I'm coming on Wednesday night, and I'm going to come pick up JJ and take him to school Thursday, pick him up Thursday, take him Friday, whatever. And I said, Casey wanted to come to the house. And I said, you can't come stay at this house because you can't get along with Tylee. She's a minor. She has to live here.
Yeah.
So because he gets in huge fights up there.
Okay.
And she hates him.
She hates him. I wonder why. And also,
Yeah.
I also don't recall, and I really did listen to everything that Annie shared as far as the
Mhm.
through the Freedom of Information Act.
Yep.
These things can be requested. I don't recall any conversation about Tylee hating Charles.
Yeah. Well,
So,
even
like,
if that's the
can't-
case,
Sorry. Yes.
if that's the case, I feel like Lori is ingraining in Tylee that Charles hates you. Like it.
It's really sad.
Probably if it weren't for Lori, Tylee and Charles could have a good relationship.
It seemed, by all accounts, even Lori's followers, I guess you're going to call her family or followers too, that Charles was really a stand-up guy and tried to be a great father to Tylee. Now, there's also a lot of skepticism about whether or not Tylee's accusations about her natural born father, Joseph Ryan, who is now dead, that she made allegations of sexual abuse. And I think Colby did too, but a lot of talk about whether that was also contrived, because the way that those documents read, she says, I told him everything you told me to say, like that kind of stuff. It just seemed contrived. That was her way of, legitimizing getting a divorce and taking his money, I guess. I mean, she couldn't just leave. She had to blow everything up.
Yeah.
Downtown Wonder says thank you, that regarding an FSU witness who was interviewed about looking up Dan Markell property, she clearly lied. Okay. Yeah. And downtown observations station also brought up that, attractive people in general oftentimes get treated differently. It's just like people of color get treated differently. It's a thing. It's for real. I agree. And Brandy says, always talk through a lawyer, protect yourself. 100%. It just shows how confident she is here. That she doesn't even have a lawyer.
Stay at the house, so I will book you a hotel, because he stays in hotels all the time because he travels for business, and the business pays for it, right? So I said, I will book you a hotel nearby.
What does he do?
He works with teachers and their retirement plans, but he goes to them at their school. He mostly works in California.
Okay.
No matter where we live. And we lived in Hawaii. He'd work in California. He'd work in Texas. He has like books of business in different areas. And so he just goes wherever.
Okay.
It kind of just gives him freedom that he doesn't have to stay home every day and take care of special needs.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with making money. He just travels for work. So
he doesn't have to be home with me.
Okay.
Also, so she's paying for his hotel probably with the money that she stole from the business account.
It's his money. She's not working.
I know.
She's not paying.
No, I know.
Right.
But she stole $35,000 from the business. Anyway.
Right.
Carry on.
It's like an excuse, right? So I've done that myself for the last 7 years anyway. And I was a single mom before I married him with my 2 kids.
Yeah.
And he had 2 kids. We got married, tried to make a family.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, we know how it goes. And by the way, just so everyone, by way of reminder, if you ever want me to pause, of course, Katie knows this, just type in pause. If there's something you really want me to see, hopefully I won't miss your comments. I try to put everyone's comments up. Do something like pause or exclamation point, or that you have a question or you want us to stop, because we're here for you.
So he said he was coming last night. I said, well, you can't stay at this house because you can't get along with Tylee. I'll get you a hotel and you can come play with JJ. But he goes to school all day.
Yeah.
I got him back into his school. His services, I met with the DDD yesterday and they finally are getting his services back. But we're paying $125 a day to have him back at school because he's so out of his routine. He's been.
Okay, I have a question for you right now. With what she's saying and what she said so far, does it appear to you that Lori was at this time, in a couple months previous to this, really involved in JJ's life, where he goes to school, his daily needs? Would you say yes or no?
Well, I would say yes. She's acting like it because it's all she does, because she has to because the husband's out working and she knows all of his special needs. And I assume that's going to get shot down real quick because.
Well, did you know that she disappeared for 72 days and didn't tell him where she was?
Who had JJ during that time?
Not Lori.
But was it
According
Charles?
to Charlie. Was it?
Well,
no. Charles had him, but she wouldn't. He didn't know where she was. He just she abandoned them.
Well, she's saying, isn't that kind of what she's saying earlier when she's like, I mean, he doesn't even know how hard I work. So I just said, fine, have the kid for 30 days. You can see how hard it is to be a dad.
But according to Charles,
it was more than 30.
According to Charles' text, it was 72 days. So so the image she's trying to portray here compared to reality is quite striking.
Yes.
And again, this is based on texts that will probably likely be admitted into the trial. So
yeah.
Yes, her mother, Janice Cox, says she's a great mother.
Clearly.
Yes. And Debbie asked a question. Sorry. Do you think Chad was after Lori for the money?
No.
I think it was partly that she probably made it out that that she had access to a lot of funds that he didn't. This guy, his wife was the breadwinner for their family of 5. So I'm sure it played into it, but no, I don't think that was 100% what was going on there. But I'm sure it was attractive to him. Do you think he would have done this with somebody who was dirt poor? Kind of doubt it. Chris Watts, not sure I get the connection. Please tell us more, Debbie, on that. Okay, and I'm sorry, I pop around a little. I try to go in order.
No, you're good.
And then, except for the text message about the burning animal pit, could Chad not have known about the kids buried in his yard? Are you saying
no?
Wait,
no,
are you
because
saying,
aren't there? Sorry,
I'm asking downtown. Are you saying in terms of evidence that's going to be allowed in the trial, or are you just asking, is it possible that he didn't know? Okay, go ahead, Katie. I just wanted to clarify what her question was.
Oh, I was going to say no, he definitely knew because there were texts between him and Lori talking about it as well, not just the burn pit.
Right.
Sorry.
I think, so the question, I want to read it again. I missed some comments. Except for the text message on the burning animal, could Chad not known about the kids buried in his yard? Because that text message about the burning animal pit was to his wife, Tammy.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking he's asking something a little bit different. Could he have
Sure.
not? Could he have possibly not known? Or
well, there were also jailhouse calls on the day that they were searching his property from Lori to Chad.
Yeah, I don't think those were,
how's it going? He's like, they're just looking.
Yeah, I don't think those were
like,
super. I didn't think those were super informative personally. He didn't.
Okay.
It wasn't like, oh yeah, they're digging up the bodies that we hid. I mean, it was just, yeah. And they had already searched his home once prior to that. So, and Brandy is interested in knowing what Lori's childhood was like. I'm guessing as she was always told she was something special, because instead of just telling her she was crazy and needed help, which is really sadly what a lot of families do, and then they create monsters. That would be my guess. Yeah. But what do I know? That would be my guess from what we're seeing here. They created and Town is saying because Alex buried the kids while Chad and Lori were in Hawaii. I don't think that's true. I don't think that's what happened from what I've read about this so far. Okay.
A nightmare on the floor, kicking stuff, hitting stuff, walls. Like, he just ripped him out of his life.
Yeah.
So, anyway, just how he is, because he only thinks about himself. Mm-hmm. So he says, coming to get JJ, and JJ's like, I don't want Dad, because he knows Dad took him away. So he was freaking out, right? So I didn't tell him he was even coming. Like, Dad's going to come take you to school, I think. So he didn't bother me last night, which I was surprised. I was expecting kind of an ambush for him to kind of, like, come over or be just mean. And say, that's my house. I'm on the lease. I'm going to stay here, kind of thing. Because that's kind of his macho attitude. And so he came this morning. I was getting JJ ready.
So he got in last night, but he wasn't at the house last night.
Yeah, I didn't hear from him. Except for he texted me and said, I'll be there at 7:30 to pick up JJ.
Okay.
And I was like, okay. That was good. Didn't hear from him.
So she said she didn't hear from him the night before. But that's going to prove to be not the case.
I just can't believe the way that she is sitting there bashing him over and like she is throwing it all on him. She's wow.
Yeah.
And Daddy took JJ away. I'm sorry, what?
Right.
He ran away. Like, yeah. Right. Anyway.
Right.
And then he came over in the morning and he's like banging on the door. I'm like, oh great, here we go, And I was just gonna be nice. I'm just gonna be nice as possible.
Did you notice how before she answered there, it's like she was looking down and like her eyes were moving? Like, what am I supposed to? How does this story go again? Did you catch that? That was the first time she stopped yapping. Like she's all.
Hold on, I got to get the story straight. Give me a second.
Now what is she? Yeah.
And I had JJ stuff all ready for school. So
do you
because I'm such a great mom.
Remember about what time we got there?
He said he'd be there 7:30, but it was more like 7:40-ish.
Okay, so now she's saying he said he was going to be there, but she just said she found out he was there because he was banging on the door.
Yeah, so I thought that was weird too, especially with this timeline, because he said, I'm going to be there at 7:30. So why aren't you waiting for him? Like, he's coming. Why? Instead, he's banging on the door and she's all pissed off about it. Like, he's coming. Be ready.
Right.
I don't know.
Okay.
But I remember looking at the clock and he wasn't there at 7:30. And he's usually Mr. On time. Yes. So I was like, okay. And then JJ was like, oh, Dad. And then he was like, Mommy, and like ran to me and like holding me. He's like, you're not taking me to school. And I was like, it's okay, Dad, can just drive you to school. It's not a big deal. Just trying to make it whatever. Yeah.
Such a good mom.
And then he was just being real smirky and real like jerky, to me. And I was like ignoring him, whatever. And so
well, she obviously weren't ignoring him because she felt she had to mention it right here.
Yeah, what does smirky and jerky even mean? Like, who says that?
So he was like,
your brother lives there with you?
No.
Okay.
He had stayed with me last night because I was worried he was going to come over and cause trouble with me.
Okay.
And
pause.
Just
bingo.
I know that's not true.
Well, but it is true in a sense. He spent the night with her.
Yes, but it wasn't because she was worried, wasn't it? Like, somebody, a sister, wasn't it? Or maybe her brother. Somebody said, I really think you should go stay with her because he's in town. Maybe it was the Melanie Gibb. Somebody. Anyway, it's weird.
Right. Well, she was taunting Charles mercilessly to the point of exasperation, and this was the final way to do it, because he would know that if her brother were there, it would have been a situation that was not normal, not safe for him. And Charles knew what Alex Cox did to Joseph Ryan, right?
Sure.
Just wanted someone else there, like my brother there, because I trust my brother, and it's been a long story. Like, I had to go live at my brother's when he took JJ, and he's just been difficult. So anyway, so I got JJ stuff ready. And he was like, well, and he's like this about timing. He's like, I'm leaving in 20 minutes because it's like 15 minutes to the school, and like you can't get there early. They don't open the gates until 8:20 or something like that. And I said, well, why don't you just go now? I don't want him in the house. I'm like, why don't you just go now and take him to Burger King, because that's what he likes for breakfast. And he's very particular about food. Like, he wanted chicken fries for breakfast and a Sprite. Like, and I just can't what he wants, because if you don't.
Okay. So, and in the comments, we're getting all like into other things other than this interrogation, which is fine. But just it reminds me right now that we're talking here in the comments. Debbie mentions about her buying wedding rings and wedding attire on Amazon. She had already done this by this day. Those wedding rings and wedding clothing for her and Chad were already purchased while this is going on. Just bear that in mind.
Because
Also,
hadn't she been like having an affair with him? Well, she'd been talking to Chad for months.
Also, the wedding rings were made of malachite, and there's been a lot of evidence that will probably come out that she was intrigued by malachite, and malachite does have some qualities in powder form that are poisonous. And she made sure their wedding rings were made of malachite too.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's like on the floor screaming, dragging him into school, like, and he's big and he's heavy, and it's hard for me to handle that. Anyway, so I said,
such a martyr, such a good mama.
Yeah, she's just
hard for you to handle. Oh, but you did such a great job, Lori. This is her family encouraging her, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like her.
This is what an abusive mother would look like and sound like.
I just go, and so he said, okay. So I gave him a backpack. He got in the car. This is his MO, right? He always leaves something in the house and comes back. He never leaves the first time. I always expect my husband to come back into the house, right? So I guess he had left his phone on the counter.
So he initially left with the backpack and with JJ?
And so he put them in the car,
okay,
in the driveway, and then he came back in, right? So I kissed JJ goodbye.
Did you?
He came back in.
Pause that
his
for
phone
a
on the counter,
second.
and I
Did you notice how that's the first time I heard her call him her husband?
Okay.
That was weird. That was a weird little, my husband, I just always expect him to come in and out a couple times.
Yeah.
That was weird. That was a weird use of that word there.
By the way, talking about how they brought JJ's things out to Charles' rental car in the garage or driveway, wherever it was. And they left JJ out in that car by himself.
Yeah.
I just find that amazing. Like, even if he wasn't autistic, like, come on, really? You just leave your kid outside in the car while you go fight with and Tylee's inside too. Tylee isn't out there with JJ. Nobody's watching him. He's only 7.
had his phone, and he was like, give me my phone, and I was like, why don't you show me your text that you've been texting, blah, 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 whatever, because he's like acting really weird, like he's plotting something.
Okay, so pause.
Why are you even here?
Right. Projection.
What? And she wants him out of the house, but she's like, okay, so she's saying that he left his phone in the house. So he took JJ, put him in the car, went back inside to get the phone. 1, do you think like he actually left it, or do you think she had it? And 2, now all of a sudden she's saying like, before is get him out of the house instantly. And now it's like, can I have my phone? And she's like, Well, let me see what's on your phone. I'm going to read through your text first
Right.
before I let you go. What? Like,
She was taunting.
that's 100% instigation and taunting, if that's the case.
Yes. And by all accounts, that's exactly what she was doing. Because remember, she had his phone and his rental car after he was shot. She took his rental car and his phone with her to bring JJ to school. And
Shut up.
Tylee-
She drove the rental car to take JJ to school?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
What?
Mm-hmm. And if you recall Tylee's interview last week that we went over,
And she's like, oh, I was going to put him in the Jeep.
correct. She mentioned, so there was some kind of, oh, they're going to ask you why we were in his car type of thing. I don't know why she was in the rental car. I mean, JJ, by her account, was in it, and by Tylee's account, JJ was in it, and they didn't move him. It's like, oh, I don't know. She must have gotten the keys. Like, he gets shot. She has his phone and his keys and takes off.
In his car.
Mm-hmm.
For 45 minutes or whatever it was.
My guess is she didn't have his keys until he was shot. She may have had his phone because she was playing with it and taunting him, and that might have been why he was chasing her around in the first place, because she wouldn't give him back his phone. Maybe she did it with his keys as well. And then he gets shot, and she just leaves with his phone and his keys in his car and his son. And
sorry, this is an offside kind of, but when speaking of the shooting, the reason that they went back and looked at the shooting of Charles, and one of them was like a shot to the chest, and then the other one was after he was laying down.
He was already on the floor. Yeah.
Yes. So that's how they know, like, partially wasn't self-defense. Like, that was, I did hear that brought up a couple times.
Correct.
Okay. Anyway.
And this
insane.
and this is a good point. And this is from Downtown Wonder. Thanks again, everyone, for being here and commenting and chatting, because this really comes alive when you're here. I mean, she says, in this scenario, this is what Tylee became when Tylee became a liability. I do agree. Tylee knew way too much, too much, and she proved, and she was probably challenging Lori in the background. We don't see that side of her here. She's protecting her, but my guess is, and she seemed pretty tough, didn't she, in that interview? She
Very
had
much so.
a little bit hardened. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So, it's 1:30 my time. I think, so we've been on an hour and a half. So this might be actually a good place to pause.
Okay.
It might take us a couple sessions to get through this interview, but it really is helping all of us. Even if we do go off topic, that's totally fine with me, because it's helping all of us get our mind set for hopefully the trial on April 1st. I forgot to look to see what came up out of the hearing, but I'm just going to take a quick look here on East Idaho news. Actually, I could probably do it up on and see what was said, if there's any headlines. I don't see anything on East Idaho news. A lot of times it doesn't happen immediately.
Yeah, I was following, like you told me to, Nate Eaton, and I saw a couple of his texts come across.
Did he on Twitter?
Yeah, he was doing like a live trial update on Twitter. But
Okay.
I didn't.
It hasn't made.
I just saw a couple tweets. I didn't get through the whole thread.
Okay. Ugh. Nate, sorry. I thought you meant on YouTube. Okay. Nate said, this is what I thought. It's about whether they're going to entertain the death penalty or not for Lori.
Yeah.
And in the trial, my only thing was I wanted to make sure that the trial wasn't delayed. It does say that her murder trial does inch closer. So, so the judge has not made a decision yet, according to Nate Eaton, about the death penalty being taken off the table. I do believe the family of J.J. Vallow wants it. And so the prosecution, the judge, they'll consider what the family wants. Like if the family doesn't want, like with Dan Markel was opposed to the death penalty. So his family didn't pursue that. So I mean, usually the prosecution will line up with the family's desires in that case. But I will say her being female and a history of mental illness
Attractive.
and a mother and a history of mental illness is going to make it, whether we, in this goes to some of the comments that were said right here. Like you said about her being attractive, juries will be swayed and they might be less likely to find a guilty verdict unanimously if the death penalty is on the table. So as citizens, right, as people who have to live with people who have done crimes, who get out of prison, what are your thoughts? I would just ask you to ask yourself, what do you think? Would you want to sacrifice the death penalty if you believe in it? And I don't support that at all. In order to get a guilty verdict, what if she's found not guilty or hung or has to be retried for that reason?
Right. Right.
So that's the thing. They're going to have to, obviously only the prosecutors know how strong their case is and
right.
You know, that kind of thing. But the saving grace is she will be extradited either way to Arizona to be tried for Charles Vallow's murder next. So she's not going to get out.
I think it's going to be a lot easier to prove conspiracy with her versus having the actual weapon in hand killing her children. So that's why I think that the death penalty should probably be removed.
Right. That makes sense too. And then also with the Arizona trial for Charles Vallow's murder, the investigation, the police work, as we can see right here. If you thought Murdaugh's was bad with SLED,
I know.
And so it's going to be a harder case to prove for that prosecution.
Yeah.
But I'm glad they're doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. And Downtown Wonder says the same thing. I feel that the death penalty is sought. It will be in danger of mistrial or not guilty. Right? I agree.
Yeah.
And many will not convict with death penalty. Right. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Let me make sure you grab a couple more of these comments. Okay. My goodness. Let me see. Sorry, I'm trying to go. Yes, there were some comments about how handsome Charles is. I mean, Chad.
No, he's not.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Oh, that chin. I have a thing about chin. Like, what the hell? You know who else has a lot of chin action going on is Sigfredo. The person who shot Dan Markel, that chin. It's like, oh my God, if I had to see that face as the last thing I saw, I'd be like, oh. That's a crime to have that chin.
Oh, Dawn.
I'm sorry.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't make fun of your chin if you weren't a murderer, okay?
That's fine.
Yeah, sorry. I shouldn't do that. He has no control.
No, that was great.
Okay, Lady Cymbeline says it was a perfect storm. Two people who didn't feel validated by their partners and had no personal success. True. Or really faltering careers made each other into god and goddess. And that is for sure. Wow.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone could make someone like this ever feel validated because they're going to have this insatiable need. So here's a question for the chatters. How long, if they hadn't have been found guilty or even done these crimes, okay, would you give Chad and Lori's marriage? 1 year? If they make it 1 year, they're going to make it 5 years? And how would that end? Would she have another wedding after that? Six husbands?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, so sad. What they did to their bodies. Oh, God. And by, yeah, I'm not going to go into it. I'll start gagging. Some of the evidence is going to be really hard on this case. I'm going to have a hard time with this. Yeah, all this and zero emotions, Brandy says, 100%.
Mhm.
Yeah, and Lady tells us, and Debbie, she's used to Charlie's saved Amazon payment type.
Of course she did.
Her late husband's funds, yes, to buy
Well, yeah, because she had no money.
the wedding, right? The wedding rings and the dresses and the outfits that she dressed Chad in. She bought him some nice looking jeans too because he didn't know how to dressed him up.
Oh God.
And we know that because of Kay and Larry Woodcock, who are great JJ's grandparents, who were the ones who actually asked Charles to formally adopt and take
Mhm.
care of JJ because his parents were unable. And they're just so brokenhearted. I really feel for them, and Larry especially. Just love that kid. And they had no idea. Anyway,
No, and they're the ones who put the pressure on all of this. Where
right.
are the kids? Like, if
They
it
might
hadn't
never
been for them, who knows? Anyway,
Right. They might never. And it was Kay who got a notification, I guess, like in the middle of the night from Amazon, because she then had his records, Charles, because she was his
Sure.
beneficiary, that there was these purchases made. She's like, well, it had to be Lori, right? So that she reported that. And Debbie says, I felt bad for Charles. The LE didn't take him seriously. That's right, law enforcement.
Yeah.
I was more broke up about Rogers leaving the Packers than the slate. He hasn't left. I'm more broke up. It's like, is he gonna leave? Is he not? Just get it over with. Stay, go, do something. Get it together. Scenario that Tylee became a liability. Okay, so we went there. Yeah, I agree. She knew too much. She had to go, and maybe she was speaking up.
Heartbreaking.
Mm-hmm. Debbie says Charles loved the kids and seemed like a good man. I like his sister, and that's Kay Woodcock. She's the one who went on the shows with red hair. No, that is, you're thinking of Annie with red hair, and that is Joseph Ryan's sister. That's Annie Cushing. It's scary. I know so much about this. I've been following this. Okay, so exactly, Tylee knew too much. Yep. She wasn't old enough for college. She supposedly took the GED, which she was proudly demonstrating, which is really interesting. To me, that's the most interesting thing about this.
That's the premeditation.
That she was walking in, laying out this story about Tylee getting her GED so she could go off to college. That is chilling to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that definitely shows premeditation.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, she's laying it all out. And I don't know that her wanting to be a police officer is really true. I think this is another thing that she said. I think Lori said this, and there is no account, and family and friends have said, no, that's not a thing. Yeah, and I don't know, can you get associate's degree at BYU? I don't think so. That's a 4-year college, and it's pretty competitive, so I don't see how she could have gotten in there with just a GED, even if she aced her GED like she's claiming. But I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong, please. I don't know, but that's my impression. Okay. Downtown Wonder, we talked about the death penalty. I'm trying to make my way through. And Debbie agrees the death penalty might preclude her getting it might not be a smooth sailing for her, for a guilty with her. Okay, so this answers, I wouldn't give them much time at all at a successful marriage. Because I was just thinking about that. It's like, how long would she have lasted with Chad? That chin would have definitely gotten to her. She would have been like, I'm declaring war on your chin. Like, I'm done with that chin. Like, she couldn't have been looking very carefully. Well, don't you, like, when you're with somebody for a while, all the flaws are like, oh, I used to think you were handsome. Okay.
Oh, Dawn.
They rushed to get rid of their spouses. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they were already consummated, but What do I know? They were spending time together in hotel rooms and things like that, alone. And he stayed in her room with her at their home. This is really sad. And Charles found that out before he died.
Because Charles found a text. I don't know. Somehow it was said that she's I don't know. It was she sent an email in Charles' name to Tylee Daybell saying that Chad needs to come here for work or something. It was insane.
Right. Claiming to be
just what are we doing?
And paying his expenses, the hotel and flight. With Chad's money. I mean with Charles' money.
Yeah.
And Lady Simbling said once they got tired of all of that and the second coming didn't happen and no big earthquake, they would have turned on each other for sure. I know, right? What would they do with all that? And Zulema supposedly had power over the elements. Like she could cause rainstorms and turn the rain on and off. And
Chad could heal her and make me vomit.
Okay, so what I wanted to mention too is the thinking is, from what I've read and listened to, that Lori helped convince Melanie to divorce Brandon for his money. Ultimately tried to kill him for his money.
Yep.
And then Lori arranged Melanie's very quick marriage to this Pulowski guy, the Pulowski dude.
Ian. 2 weeks. Yeah. He's madly in love with her.
Married at the same courthouse, and it was believed the same day that Lori arranged for Zulema to marry Alex Cox, her brother, who had never been, he was married briefly, but the woman was like, ick, and she left in 5 months. So, she was like, ick. This is like icky, this whole thing. And she described in great detail Lori's relationship with Alex, which is ick. Double ick. And so
but I thought I heard somewhere that Alex and sorry.
So let me finish. So they got married at the same courthouse by arrange. So she's arranging marriages of people that then are going to die. I think Melanie was going to go next because she also knows too much. So Lori getting arrested did probably save some lives and getting detained, because they didn't detain her based on murder right away. She was detained because she wasn't protecting her children and producing them. But the point is, I was trying to make is there's this selfie of Melanie, her new husband, Ian, Zulema, and her new husband, Alex, Lori's niece and Lori's brother, at the courthouse getting married. Now, I understand that the marriage might have been a day apart, but somehow or another, they were all at the courthouse at the same time getting their marriage license, and there's a selfie, which is really weird. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I thought I heard something that Alex and Lori weren't getting along for a couple years, like between 15 to 18, and then all of a sudden they started connecting again. Okay.
Yeah, there was a time when they weren't. Yeah.
Okay.
Lady says, Dawn, Tylee says this on one of the recorded interviews at the police station. She wanted to do it as a career. They might have been. Oh, yes. She said it. I agree. She said it in her interview, in her police interview, but that was just not a real thing. I agree. And because people said, we've never heard that before. People who knew her said that was contrived. Part of the story, part of the ingratiating. Yes, I agree. Yes, she did say it. And we did that last week, but I don't remember. Did we talk about it anyway? But yes. Good point.
I don't remember hearing that.
Well, you know what they say about those chins, Downtown Wonder says. I have no idea what they say. And thank you, Brandy, for being here. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Double chinners are snorers.
Oh, God.
He doesn't just have a double chin, though. He's got I'm not commenting on his weight, which is just as bad, but. All right, everyone. Well, we're going to wrap it up. Katie, it's been great. We'll carry on with this next week. I feel like we should do 2 episodes a week, though, to catch up, because the trial is right around the corner.
Yes.
But they'll be Quadir and jury selection and all that for a while. So it's, yeah. All right.
No, we can. I just start it next week because Thursday and Friday my kids don't have school. So
Okay. Sounds good. All
we'll
right.
figure that out next week.
All right, everyone. So thank you again.
Bye.
Yes, we'll see you next week.
Bye.